And good afternoon. Peace and grace to all. This is a beautiful Saturday afternoon. It is July the 2nd, 2022. And you're listening to WHGE 95.3 FM. I am Rachelle Wilson, your informationor and your mental liberator. Thank you for staying tuned in to the Make Some Intelligent Noise Justice Movement. I appreciate you staying with me. I appreciate being in your presence. So let's get right to it. I want to read something to you that many of us may be familiar with, but I want to bring it back to mind in order for you to fully comprehend my report today. And let me precede my report by saying with a resounding and an absolute confirmation that sometimes the things that I say, they may be found as offensive. Some people may find that they have hurt their feelings. And that is never, ever my intention to do that. I am not here, plotting and planning, how can I hurt the people today? What I am here to do is to acknowledge the truth. And I pray that you will acknowledge the truth with me. For 1 hour every Saturday from 1 until 2, you will hear me give you my research, my information, my knowledge of that truth, that universal truth. I realize that we all have a truth that we consider this is my truth, and that's fine. You're entitled to that as well. But there is a universal truth. There is an absolute truth that cannot and will not be denied. So that is the truth that I am here to tap into, to hone into, to skillfully perfect and master the ability to recognize the truth and to accept it as well as apply it as needed. And I am here in the most sincerest way that you will join me on that journey. Make some intelligent noise does not mean any hurt, harm, or offense to anyone, but I have a higher power that I must answer to when I look in the mirror, and I must give account that I explained and exposed the truth to the very best of my human capabilities. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I say, you are excused if you are of the faint of heart. If the truth is something that you find distasteful or uncomfortable, you are always welcome to turn your head, to close your ears. I understand. But you see, we're in a matrix. And if you've never seen the movie, it's so much more than Keanu Reeves playing the part of Neo. The Matrix is not just some cartoon fantasy that Hollywood made up. It is based off of the psychology of the world that we live in. Now, I know the attention span of most human beings does not exceed 12 seconds. But I promise if you stay with me for this 1 hour, I will explain myself in such a way that perhaps you will be liberated from the matrix, perhaps even understanding what the matrix really is. Now, for all of my scholars out there, you already know. And so this is just a refresher broadcast, just a refresher to remind you, to recall the information that you already know. Stay with me and let's go down this rabbit hole together. Welcome to Make Some Intelligent Noise, the broadcast, the journalists, the movement for fair and equitable justice. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote for the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to our posterity and ourselves. We do hereby ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. 52 words, ladies and gentlemen. 52 words that serve as the fundamental laws of these lands. And I want to share something else with you in order to go down this rabbit hole. So please continue to stay with me. And the words that I just read to you, by the way, came from the Constitution of the United States. As we've been talking about it on the Political Power Hour, we know that the framers, the founding fathers, many of them were slave owners. What you may not know is that John Adams it escapes my memory, but there were two of the framers of the Constitution of the United States who were also lawyers in Admiralty law. Now I'm going to bring this all the way home. Stay with me. This is a refresher for my scholars. And this is something to contemplate for all of those who are just chiming in. I thank you so much for being here. Please stay with me. So it says in the preamble of the Constitution of the United States, it begins with three simple words. We, the people. Who are we, the people? Well, that may be a conversation for the Political Power Hour. But in the shortest version, we, the people, are you and I. We are you. We are we, the people. You and I. We constitute the powers that be. They have no power, whoever they may be, and we'll get to that as we move along. But they have no power outside of we, the people. All right? And it says that in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote for the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to our posterity and ourselves, do hereby ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. And as I stated, there were two, and I remember John Adams, and there is another gentleman, one of the founding fathers of the Constitution. They were lawyers who studied Admiralty law. So let's take a closer look at Admiralty law to take us to our next point. I'm going to bring this all the way home for Make Some Intelligent Noise. What is Admiralty law? It is a distinct body of laws that govern maritime questions and disputes. It is a body of strong, private, international law, such as the Roman laws, the Byzantine laws, the Rhodian laws, and Southern Italian sea ordinances. It didn't say laws, it said ordinances. All combined with common law, and all heavily influenced by Islamic law. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Are you hearing what I'm saying? This is Admiralty law, and two of the founding fathers, many of them were slave owners, but two of them were lawyers in Admiralty law. And this is what Admiralty law is. It is heavily, and maybe heavenly, influenced by Islamic law. I'm coming home with the point. For those humans that have 12 seconds of attention span because we're so busy doing thus and such, stay with me. This is a teachable and learnable moment. I'm going to bring it home full circle. So now we know what the the definition of Admiralty law is. We know what it includes. We know what it is. It is a combination of a variety of laws that were pulled and derived from other places, heavily influenced by the common law, which was Islamic law. Why was common law Islamic law? Because the original Native Americans, the indigenous people, as we all know, they were Moors, they were Muslims. It wasn't until after 1776, July 4th, 1776, that is when Christianity became a headliner in America. Christianity took foot and hold, a stronger grasp of the American soils, the continent of North America, after July 4th, 1776. So as we are celebrating, for those of you that would celebrate it, you are celebrating July 4th, the weekend. You know, we're so happy to have a day off. That's wonderful. I will celebrate having an extra day off of work, which I'll probably still sit at the laptop and get it all in. The point that I'm making, July 4th of 1776 is when the British, those that were the English, decided their independence from Britain, from England, from the British. They declared this North American continent as their own. They incorporated the parliamentary laws, which we know are British laws. They incorporated parliamentary law with the common law that was already here upon the lands. Remember, we're going back to the 1400s. To the 1400s, when Henry, and we don't know his last name, Henry the Navigator, brought the Spaniards to these lands where the indigenous were already. We had folks had libraries and laws and Congress and schools and universities. These things were already here. So when Henry the Navigator brought the Spaniards here, we know what happened. We know what happened. We know what happened to the people once the Spaniards came to the North American continent. It wasn't long after that that the word got out about this great and beautiful flourishing land. Soon, the British, the English came, the Portuguese came, and before you know it, July 4th, 1776, after a very bloody battle, the British that came here, the 13 colonies, they staked the claim of this land as their own. They fought for it, and they became independent of Britain. So technically speaking, if you are not of original genealogical DNA from England, British background and bloodline, I'm not sure why you are celebrating the 4th of July. I do not understand. What does it have to do with you? Other than, as aforementioned, you get a day off of work. Isn't that wonderful? We get one extra day that we don't have to report into corporate America. Hip, hip, hooray. But for those of us that do not have a British, English, DNA, genealogical bloodline, for those of us that do not have that, why are you running around with flags, red, white, and blue flags, claiming your independence? What are you independent of? What have you been set free from? Now, it's sugar-coated by saying we are celebrating the independence of the North American continent. My question would be, at what point was the North American continent ever enslaved until after 1776. Help me out with my history. For all of my history gurus, fill in the blanks for me there. At what point were we enslaved that we needed to celebrate an Independence Day for the North American continent? That was the British, the English, who had separated from England and the British, coming to these lands, staking a claim in a land that was already inhabited by indigenous people with Islamic laws. The common laws were Islamic laws. And as I listened to my beloved minister, Minister Louis Farrakhan, and his amazing teachings, as much as many of us would call it hate speech, because he does address the issue of colors, of white and brown and so forth. He addresses that from his perspective of a universal truth and historical truth. So let's not call it hate speech if it's the truth. If it's not the truth, then we can call it hate speech. But if it is the truth, ladies and gentlemen, and you call it hate speech, then you are asleep in the matrix. And it is time to awaken and arise for your purpose upon these lands. In America, in this world, what is your greater purpose to that which is greater than yourself? The one we call the eternal God, the God that created time, that created life and the planets and the sun and the moon and Mother Nature and all of these beautiful aspects that we get to enjoy. So, as I formally stated, Admiralty law, and if I could just remember his name, I'm so disappointed that it has escaped my brain. John Adams was one. They were lawyers that studied Admiralty law. And now that you have the definition of what Admiralty law is and what it addresses and where it was derived from, let me read further down this rabbit hole to awaken those still locked up in the mental matrix. Those of you that are still asleep. Maritime laws and admiralty laws are so interchangeable that only one word can change their entire meanings. And that word is land. They are often referred one to the other. They are very similar because admiralty law covers the maritime issues of marine actions, such as ships and boats, port of harbor, the sea life, etc. The distinction is that admiralty law also supersedes the laws of the land, with an exception to the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the United States, where they are harmonized as one. Are you listening to the language? You must become a word connoisseur, a master of words, in order to fully comprehend what is being said. If you don't understand the words, you will not understand the lies, the hidden shadows. Ladies and gentlemen, admiralty law supersedes the laws of the land with an exception to the United States Constitution, aka the Constitution of the United States, where they are harmonized as one law. One law. Admiralty law covers a variety of sea and land questions and issues, as well as private, international laws of transportation of passengers and cargo, and commercial laws. Commercial laws. Commercial is commerce, money, the business of the day. The buy, sell, and trade is the commerce, the commercial laws. Stay with me. I'm going to bring it home. I'm bringing it home. I'm coming around the circle. Don't touch those dials, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to WHGE 95.3 FM, your black-owned, black-operated news, information, and advocacy station in the state of Delaware. And I am Rachelle Wilson, your liberator of your mind. Free your mind and your bloop will follow. All of the rest of you will follow when you free your mind. Listen to the words and how the words are played together like an instrument, a violin and a flute playing together in perfect harmony. How they were written. How they were written will determine how they are interpreted. Many of us hear the words, the interpretation of the courts, the interpretation of the Supreme Court, or the federal courts. Even the state courts have interpretations of the law. The words will help you, will create the venue for how you interpret these laws. So Admiralty law and the Constitution of the United States works in harmony one with the other. And all other laws are under the score of Admiralty except for the Constitution of the United States. That is the only thing that it is working in harmony with. It doesn't say that the Constitution of the United States supersedes Admiralty law. It says they work in harmony as one law, as if they're married, like a marriage. A good marriage. The good marriages work in harmony one with the other. So Admiralty law and the Constitution of the United States are now upon the Americas, the North of Mexamore, are all working as one law. Remember that. This is important for when I bring it home. And I'll be doing that in just a second. Here we go. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with me. The private international laws of passengers, of cargo, and commercial laws. Admiralty law also covers the relationships between private entities that operate vessels on the seas for both private and public commercial advancement. Admiralty law also covers the relationship between private entities that operate vessels on the seas, ships and boats, for both private use as well as public and commercial advancement. This is what Admiralty law covers. These are the issues that can be addressed with Admiralty law. Remember, Admiralty law supersedes maritime law. Maritime law is strictly what's taking place in the water, in the oceans, the sea. That's maritime. Every single thing that takes place in the seas falls under the jurisdiction of maritime law. However, Admiralty law covers both maritime, the seas, as well as the land, in harmony with the Constitution of the United States. So it can supersede the maritime laws, the laws of the ocean and the sea. You with me? All right, I know you are, because you're geniuses. So I don't even have to repeat this because you are geniuses. I'm repeating it simply to make a point. For any listeners who are just tuning in, I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to hear this information. Perhaps you're a guru at it. You're a master at it. But there could be someone out there you don't know who will benefit from this information that I am liberating your mind today. So please share the information. Share it. Share it with your friends and your family. All right, now I'm coming to the best part and the absolute most important part. Here we go. This is it. Admiralty also covers the relationship between private entities that operate vessels on the seas for both private and public commercial advancement, such as the transportation of slaves upon cargo ships to land, where the cargo is then sold for commerce. Such as the transportation of slaves upon cargo ships to land, where the cargo is then removed from the ship and sold upon the lands for commerce. Commercial laws. The commercial laws, the Uniform Commercial Codes. You want to know what are the laws of commerce, of how to do business, buy, sell, and trade? You want to go to the UCCs. The Uniform Commercial Codes, and they're constantly being updated and changed and addended, amended, and so you got to keep a close eye on the UCCs, Uniform Commercial Codes. All things commerce, including the transportation of the slaves, which we were at that time, our ancestors were called cargo. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen, that is a powerful word. The cargo upon the ship, when the ship docks, right? When the ship comes off the seas and into port, ties the rope, and it is now docked upon the land. It is now under Admiralty law, in harmony with the Constitution of the United States. Admiralty maritime laws cover all of such actions and activities. One would do well to know the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco and the United States. This particular treaty speaks volumes of Admiralty and maritime laws, which are still enforceable today by the Constitution of the United States. Did you get that? The Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco, the original owners of the North American continent, and this new United States, right? The 13 colonies that are celebrating the 4th of July, their Independence Day in 1776. The treaty between those colonies, or colonists, the leaders of those colonists, and the Moroccans that were already on these American continental lands, created a treaty of peace and friendship. This is how we're going to cohabitate and live together. These are the laws of how we're going to get along and continue having a place of peace and justice and lawful order. They were common laws. Common laws. Islamic. The Moors were the Moroccans. So when I call myself a Moor, I am saying I am of the original bloodline, genealogical descendant of the Moroccan Treaty of Peace and Friendship, of these North American lands. My heritage, my blood and bloodline of ancestors are upon these lands as the indigenous and original people. So I proudly call myself a Moor. And hopefully some of this is explaining to you why, in terms of my lawful rights, and why I will not call myself black. In a court of law, in a house, a court of house of court, I will not call myself black. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole that you will have to discover for yourself. Why is it a bad thing to consider yourself as black anytime you walk into a room of court, a house of court, and there's a judge sitting or standing in front of you? However, this treaty speaks volumes of Admiralty and maritime laws. They originally were the laws of the Moroccans between Morocco and Parliamentary and all of the other nations in the world that did business with Morocco, Moroccans, the Moors, upon these lands in North American continent. Is any of this making any sense? I pray that I'm on the right track with you guys and everybody is listening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is paramount. It's paramount. So, which are still enforceable today by the way of the United States Constitution. The Constitution of the United States, as well as the United States Constitution, which primarily deals with the UCCs and commercial law, commerce upon these lands, they work very well together. Or they work in harmony together. But the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, along with the Constitution of the United States, those laws are still enforceable today if you know how to apply them. If you know how to apply them. Article 3 of Section 2 of the Constitution of the United States grants federal jurisdiction to hear all Admiralty cases and or questions and issues in the United States Supreme Court. Now there's the clincher. If you are up on your game and you understand Admiralty law, you're coming into fruition of your mastery of those skills of comprehending the law and where you fit into the law. If you are on that journey, then you will know how to apply Admiralty law, but only in the federal Supreme Courts. They are not recognized on state level except by one condition, and that is the Erie law, which we're not going to get into today. But you do need to understand this, ladies and gentlemen. As I stated, Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution grants federal jurisdiction to all Admiralty cases, questions or issues brought under the United States Supreme Court. It must be under the highest level of the United States Supreme Court. You cannot hear it anywhere else. So don't walk into a state court trying to apply Admiralty laws in harmony with the Constitution of the United States, in harmony with the UCCs, Uniform Commercial Codes, because you need to understand in what way do they harmonize. Just because things are harmonizing does not necessarily mean they are harmonizing to your benefit. Do you understand? Do you comprehend where I'm coming from, ladies and gentlemen? You're listening to Rachelle Wilson here at WHGE. Make some intelligent noise. So now that we have a better, more clear comprehension of what Admiralty law is, what maritime law is, what are the UCCs, the Uniform Commercial Codes, that's a whole piece to look up right there. Why are the commercial codes uniformed? What does that mean, a uniform commercial code? Do you know what that means? Homework. It's homework. But now that you understand or comprehend how Admiralty law works with the Constitution of the United States of America and how they allegedly work in harmony together and how you can apply those laws, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is still active, lawfully active today, but you must use it on a Supreme Court level. Now that we are all in conjunction with that, let me take a moment to bring you to the point of why I came to this radio station today. You see, ladies and gentlemen, parched throat from talking. It's not as easy as you may think it is to sit here for an hour and explain yourself and express your passion. But this is an issue that I am very passionate about. I'm very passionate about justice and the reforms in the systems of justice. Because as we read in the preamble of the Constitution of the United States, it says to form a more perfect union and establish justice. But when we look at the framers, being quite a large portion of them were slave owners in a time when slavery was vibrantly alive and the South was making numerous amounts of money. Remember, it was to secure the blessings of themselves and their posterity. So all of the descendants of the slave owners, the people who prospered from slavery, their descendants will also and have also prospered from slavery. Whether they want to admit it or not is a personal choice. They must look into the mirrors and decide of whether they will be in denial. As Timeless Thomas says, that river over in Egypt, denial, or whether or not they will stand in the truth, which then when you stand in the truth, you can listen to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, hear the truth, and not be offended by it. You can hear the truth and not be offended by it when you are open to free your mind from the matrix of slave mentality and all of the layers and layers and layers of lies and deceptions and the words and the colorful, artful words of how we went from one stage of people to another stage of people. When I was a high school teacher, I always told our beautiful young boys and girls, your history does not start with slavery. You were kings and queens of Moroccan Moorish descent. You owned these lands. You had universities. University of Timbuktu was created and built mathematically perfect by Moorish people. People of dark-hued skin. And I would tell this to my students to encourage them to be greater, better than what society says that they are. You are more than that. My beautiful, beautiful children. As a high school substitute teacher and a teacher in media journalism, I love my children. And I kept it real with them. And I spoke truth, delight for them. Many of them love me to this day because Miss Rachelle did that. And I'm bringing it to you, ladies and gentlemen, because if I was able to teach it to a 14-year-old young man and young girl, the greatness of their bloodline and their constitutional rights that are still enabled today, they are able today, based on the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between those 13 colonies that came to these lands where the Moors were already established. Because of that contract, a treaty is a contract. So then you would go into contractual laws in order to comprehend what is a treaty and how the Treaty of Peace and Friendship really works and how it works for you. I see so many of our young, beautiful, brown-hued people going through the court systems. The prison industrial complex is like a monster waiting to engulf them, waiting to be fed by the judges that sit on the benches. But I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, since the nation's founding, the fabric of American society has been woven with deeply racist policies, practices, and attitudes that harm black and brown and golden people, the indigenous people of these lands. And these policies and practices have led to an unequal system where people have both implicit and explicit advantages because of the institution of slavery, leading to better jobs, better education, and better housing. The 13 colonies, when they created themselves upon these lands, those institutions were created for them and by them. And we still live by some of that today. So when I look at my elected public servant officials, and many of them, I say bravo for the amazing work that they are doing to reconstruct, rewrite some of the mentality, the slave mentality that still exists today in the woven fabric of the American 13 colony American system. Because there was a time when we, those of descendants of the Moors, the Moroccans, the Africans that came to these lands and were already here by the time Christopher Columbus and his crew got here, even in the 1400s when Henry the Navigator came to these lands, bringing the Spanish and Portuguese, exposing this land to them. We were already here. We had our own governance. We were kings and queens and governors. We had common laws, which common laws are also a part of the Constitution of the United States. All common laws were heavily influenced with Islamic law. So all I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that the systems that we now live in here in America, they were not created by us and for us. Quite contrary. And yet these are the systems that still govern us today. Bravo to all of the advocates who will stand up and speak truth. And to all of the people that will awaken from their matrix of lies and deception and denial of the truth. But you will wake up and arise and ask yourself immediately upon awakening, what can I do to be a part, to be one in harmony in the process of changing those laws? Now, when we look at politics, we clearly see that many folks who have an advantage and who profit from the laws and the systems remaining the same will always vote for the system to remain the same. It works in their advantage. Implicit or explicit advantage. Jobs, education, and housing. It works to their advantage to keep the system exactly as it is and as it has been. So although this is not the political power hour, typically I do that show on Wednesdays from 4 until 5. As I've stated a million times, justice, make some intelligent noise, justice movement owns the rights to the political power hour, and they work in harmony one with the other. You can't talk politics and not talk justice. You can't talk justice without politics and politicians, elected public servant officials. When we look at the systems that have massively incarcerated fathers, husbands, brothers, uncles, cousins, and now in 2022, we can include mothers, sisters, daughters, wives. Massive incarceration. When you look at the systems, ladies and gentlemen, that have been put in place since the 4th of July, 1776, and prior, I'm using that date, but trust me when I tell you, I know the dates. I do know the dates. I do know. But as I'm saying, when you look at the systems, when they became free and independent of what they considered to be their owners, the people in the 13 colonies, they wanted to be here upon these lands. They wanted to live a new life and start a brand new life in their own world and their own laws and governances. So they fought for their freedom from Britain or England. They fought for it. Bloody. They fought for it. And on July 4th of 1776, they declared their independence. And they became the United States of America, right? The 13 colonies, they had a little flag, red, white, and blue with a little circle with 13 little stars on it. Real pretty little flag. And then later on, it became a flag with a whole bunch of stars, right? Well, those stars that weren't in the original 13, honestly, they belong to all of us. Now, how is it that they incorporated all of those other stars to go along with their 13, the original 13, that we gave them that land? We allowed them to be settlers on that land. Those 13 colonies, we gave it to them in a sense of peace and friendship. How did they come about getting all of the rest of it? Ladies and gentlemen, you got to look at the 13 colonies, their descendants, their leadership. And there you will find out how they acquired all 52 states to become the United States of America. What happened to us, the original indigenous people? And I often laugh with tears in my eyes when I look at old, way back movies made of cowboys and Indians. And the cowboys were the good guys. They always kill the Indians. Woo! Right? They always kill those pesky little Indians. The cowboys were the good guys. They always won the battle at the end of the show, and he rode off into the sunset. Here in American Western lands. I laugh when I see that, and I do it with tears in my eyes and anger in my heart. How did they get around to getting the other stars and turning all of this North America into the America? The United States of America. How did that happen? That's another story for another day. But I can tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. The system is a system of inequality. It was created to be that. It was never created to be fair nor equitable. When they created the system, they did not create it to be fair and equitable for brown-hued and indigenous people. Now, why do I talk about the history when so many folks say, that was then, we've got to get over it, it's over and done, it happened, we're in a new time, it's a new generation, it's a new era. Hey, I absolutely agree. 2022 is a long way from 1776. But here's my point, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that had an attention span longer than 12 seconds and you're still with me, here's the whole point of today's broadcast. Slavery's over, right? We've been set free from our bondage. And today is July 4th. We celebrate the independence of the 13 colonies turning North America, the United States, right? The United States of America. Point in case, it's old, it's over, you want me to get over it? And yet I just gave you documented proof that the laws of then are still enacted today. How can you tell me to get over slavery, to get over it, let it go, be forgiving and be kind and be loving? How can you tell me to do that? How can you ask me to get over the atrocities that took place for 400 years? You want me to get over it? I'm good with that. I will. For the sake of love in my heart, I will get over it. But how can I do that when you are still enforcing the same laws on me today that you put on my ancestors when they were slaves, when we were slaves? Some of the same laws apply today that were applicable then. How can I forgive? How can I get over it when I watch our prisons fill up massively with brown fathers and sons and uncles and mothers and daughters? How can I get over slavery when you are still enforcing laws today that you enforced then? And they're constitutional. They're constitutional. Make some intelligent noise. Yes, indeed, we do have a racial justice agenda that seeks to address America's legacy of racism and systemic discrimination. Through advocacy and efforts of legal strategies to strike down the laws and the practices that harm brown people. I target my elected public servant officials. I must hold them accountable because they have the power that we, the people, have given them. I must hold my elected officials accountable to change these laws, which is my primary interaction with many of them. I need to advocate for the laws to be changed. I need to be a voice. Not for the voiceless, because we all have a voice. If you're registered to vote, you have a voice. So I'm not here for the voiceless. I'm here for those who are ready to stand up and be we the people, to make the changes, to hold our accountable our elected officials and our judges that sit in the courtroom and feed the prison industrial complex. You feed them, judges. You feed them. And I seek change. I advocate for change. But ladies and gentlemen, I am one voice of millions. I am one woman of millions. And trust me when I tell you, I know that when you get one woman in a room with one more woman, and yet another woman joins, and another, and before you know, the whole room is filled. And then the whole Coliseum is filled. And then the state is filled with women who are in agreement, who are in unison, harmonizing as one voice. When we gather together, natural born women, there's something special that takes place. We can transform. We can transform an entire atmosphere. We can be the change. When you ask me, why do I support woman power? Why do I have this thing with boss and babes? Because it is boss and babes that will stand up and be the change. There's something powerful about divine women coming together in a unified voice. In order to move forward, ladies and gentlemen, we must Sankofa. We must know the history of a thing before we can change it. So as the roots, so too are the fruits. The fruits of massive incarceration came from the roots of systemic racism. And it is only when we know that truth and accept that truth that we can truly celebrate our independence. I'm Rachelle Wilson. I believe in systemic equality. I believe in raising my voice through advocacy, actively advocating with our elected public servants and the laws and lawyers. I believe in that because I've had to learn that that is how you create change. Sitting on your sofa, doing absolutely nothing, things will stay as they are for the next generation, for our posterity. How can we, the people, enjoy the fruits of prosperity, commercial commerce, commercial prosperity for ourselves and our posterity? How can we do that until we accept truth and then begin to change the narrative? In changing the laws, we change the narrative, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, I will call out to my women. To my women, I call out to you. Let us join in unity, in solidarity, as one voice, and be the change that we are demanding to see. If not for ourselves, then let's do it for our posterity, for the prosperity of our posterity. I put this request out to you because I am passionate about it. And for there to be over 2 million incarcerated folks in America's prisons today, I can't think of a particular reason in my mind why we have not already come together and led the march to Congress, to the steps of Congress. I've been calling for this for over a year as a leader, because I am a leader. I was born one, and I lead in so many different ways, but I don't brag about that, because with leadership becomes responsibilities. Everyone wants to be the leader until it's time to put in the work to be responsible for the people that follow you. It is but by the grace of Almighty Divine, the eternal God, that created me to be a leader and has shown me the wisdom of how to be responsible for those that would follow me. Those of like mind that would follow me. I will be responsible in my broadcasting, in my report, and in my active advocacy. I will always be authentically me. I must do that. At 60 years old, there's no more time to play games with being fake. I got to keep it real. Because I've used up my youthful shenanigans. Days of my youthful shenanigans are all gone. I am now in a day of seasoned maturity and wisdom. I'm not playing any games. There's no time to be fake and phony and just etiquette. My etiquette is proper and polite and pure and pristine. I will do my best to live up to that. But I must be responsible first and foremost to truth. As a leader, to the truth. And if you're interested in truth, if you're interested in make some intelligent noise, you would like to join the movement. You would like to join the movement to make some intelligent noise, to advocate for what's right, for systemic equality and prison reforms. The educational system inside of the prisons is appalling. They give us all of these pretty little flowery, blossoming scenarios of we're doing this program and we're doing that program, and the people inside of prisons have access to this and they have access to that. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot say that is an absolute truth. When I look at what is actually being offered in the prisons, and how many people actually can get what's being offered based on this or that, or this many points, or those points, or no points, or whatever the case or scenario, everything that they do offer is not even being offered to everyone. So prison reform is important to me. You should have never allowed me to do the research and find out that Norway actually has rehabilitative services. Whenever you commit an offense and you are incarcerated, the rehabilitation begins the moment that you are arrested. Immediately. Rehabilitation begins. But in America's prisons, based on their systems, and I've been talking about this because I want you to get it in your mind, and based on what I gave you today, the Admiralty law, maritime law, uniform commercial codes, all working in harmony with the Constitution, and very little, but it does exist, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. All of the information I gave you today is jewels of research. Jewels. And I just simply, I advocate for equality. When you look at how the systems of America were created and where we are today, we have not arrived. We cannot celebrate the 4th of July and our independence because many of us are not independent from our captors. We are still enslaved. You must know the root, the history. You must know the history in order to change the future. Because if you keep doing what you've always done, you will continue to receive what you have always received. The systems, ladies and gentlemen, they've got roots. And we watch our young sons, our brothers, our husbands. We watch them go into the system. They come out of the system. They go back into the system. They come out of the system. They go back into the system. And perhaps we never see them again. The system was created and designed to destroy your whole life. It was not built to rehabilitate. And it will only change when you and I join forces as one unified voice and say, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote for the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for our posterity and ourselves. It is only when we say those words together and we say it to the people who have the ink pen and the papers, that is when the change will take place. I hope and pray that you stayed with me today. I know it's a beautiful Saturday and there are so many folks. There are so many people today who are not aware that their barbecue is not an independence for themselves, but they celebrate the 4th of July and Independence Day. To all of us, I say, arise, awaken, study, get the knowledge, learn, research, know your history, and become one of we the people moving forward to advocate for change. I'm Rachelle Wilson. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I pray that my message was received with love and truth. Until we meet next time, God loves you and so too do I. Take care of yourselves and each other. Karma is real. Peace and grace.
Lord, for Jesus. What's your report? What have you done for Jesus lately? What's your report? Are you
okay? Wonderful extra day off of work weekend to everyone. I pray that you are well. Love you. I appreciate you. And I guess I'll see you on Wednesday. Until then, God loves you, and so too do I.
What's your report?